What's going on, everyone? This is Vince from Life with Vincent, and in July of 2020, I completed the Counter Club / 500 miles in a month challenge. So I am making this video to take you all through the journey of me running 500 miles in a month. And just to clarify, when I say I ran 500 miles in a month, I mean I ran, I jogged, and I walked. Intentional time on my feet to get to that 500 mile mark by the end of the month. So what is this challenge and why did I decide to do it? I first heard of the Counter Club challenge from the man himself, Jesse Itzler, and the challenge entails that a person run the number of miles on the given day of the month, i.e. July 1st, run 1, July 31st, run 31, and everything else in between. If you add up 1 to 31 and everything else in between, you get 496. That's why I decided to add an additional 4 miles to make it an even 500, because 500 sounds better than 496. Plus, I likely won't be in the neighborhood of running 500 miles in a month for a long time, so I thought to myself, what better time to do it than to do it right now? In terms of why I decided to do the challenge, I was really inspired by Jesse Itzler. I wanted to take my mind to the next level. I wanted to expand my mental capacity. I really wanted to get to that dark place, get out of it, and come out the other side stronger. Because to me, this challenge was more than a physical challenge. This challenge was an analogy for life. Because if I can run 500 miles in a month by the method of the Counter Club challenge, by adding 1 additional mile every single day, then I can do anything that I put my mind to. I also wanted to give a picture of my level of fitness before I did this challenge. I'm 5 foot 5 inches tall. I weigh 133 to 135 pounds. I've been practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for right around 2 years now, and I am a blue belt. I've also been powerlifting for about 6 or 7 years now, and my lifetime PRs for powerlifting: squat 325 without a belt, bench 255 without a belt, deadlift 415 without a belt, and 425 with a belt. I haven't been able to hit those types of powerlifting numbers in a few years, though a few days before I did this challenge, I maxed out on my squat, which I hit 295, and I maxed out on my bench, which I hit 225. I wasn't able to max out on my deadlift because I didn't have enough weight, but with the weight that I did have, I was able to do 390. Realistically, I think I would have been able to do 405 for a single. In terms of running, and especially ultra running, it's really only been about a year or so since I've taken it seriously. I completed my first marathon ever in July 2019. It was a San Diego rock and roll marathon. And then in September of 2019, I completed my first 50 miler ever, which was self-supported. And then in December of 2019, I completed my first 100 miler ever, which was also self-supported. 100 miles. Completed. Good job, thank
dude.
you.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Thank you to my supporting cast. Thank you. 100 miles. What a day, or 2 days. Since December of 2019, after I finished my 100 miler, I've been averaging 40 to 50 miles per week up until now. The only caveat to that is when I did the 10 miles a day for 30-day challenge in April, in which I was averaging 70 miles per week. So let's get into the actual execution of running 500 miles in 31 days. On each day of the month, I ran the corresponding number of miles on that specific day, except for days 1 and 2. On both those days, I ran 3 miles each, so that gives me an additional 3 miles to add to the overall total. Plus, where I got the last mile from, every single run, I ran a little bit over. Whether that was 0.01 or 0.05, when I added up all those decimals, that gave me the additional mile. So from days 1 and 2, I had 3 extra miles, plus that additional mile, that's 4, plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, all the way up to 31. That's 496 plus 4, making it an even 500 for the month. From days 1 through 15, I ran all the miles on the given day in one run. On day 16, I broke it up into 2 runs, and then on day 17, again, I ran it in 1 run. Day 18 moving forward, I broke it up into however many runs it took me to achieve the mileage for the day. From days 1 through 20, I did absolutely 0 walking. I ran all the runs all the way through. On day 21, I started implementing the 6-4 strategy. So run for 6 minutes, walk for 3. I did this from day 21 to day 25, and then on day 26, I implemented the 7-3 strategy. So run for 7 minutes, walk for 3, and I used the 7-3 strategy all the way through until I was done on day 31. In terms of the nutrition plan going into the challenge, I am a vegetarian and I've also been religiously tracking my macros even before this challenge. I know that for me, if I run 5 miles in a day, I'll need to consume about 2,700 calories in order to maintain my weight. And my goal for this challenge was to maintain my weight, so I had to make sure that I got enough food so that I can recover optimally and be able to perform the next day. With each additional mile that I run after 5 miles, I know that I have to consume an additional 100 calories. So on day 5, I consume 2,700. On day 6, I consume 28. On day 7, I consume 29, so on and so forth. I stuck with tracking my macros until about day 14, day 15. Once it got into those middle days of the month, it got really tiring and really laborious just to track all my macros. So at that point, I switched to intuitive eating. With intuitive eating, I did find it really hard to make sure that I got in enough calories. I really had to turn to calorie-dense food, a lot of junk food, a lot of chips, regular soda, cheesecake, pie, donuts, whatever I could find around the house. And now that I was eating intuitively instead of tracking my macros, knowing exactly how many calories I was getting per day, I had to have a system in place to make sure that I got in enough food so that I can perform optimally and recover optimally for the next day. So my system was, right before bed, I would weigh myself, and from past experiences, I know that I usually weigh 2 pounds less in the morning than I do at night. When I first started this challenge, I was right around 133, 134. So before I went to bed each and every night, I made sure that I weighed right around 136 to 137 pounds. And here are a few clips of the different days of the Calorie Club Challenge. They're all in chronological order. You can see my mood, you can see my facial expressions, you can see some of my thoughts. Here we go. Today is day number 8 of my Calendar Club Challenge. As you can see, just got back from my 8-mile run, and woo-wee, do I feel good. Day number 11, Calendar Club Challenge. 11 miles in the books. Woo-wee! Past 11 days have all been good. I haven't had a bad day just yet. I'm sure they're coming. And overall, I just feel good. Overall today, very good pace, 9:40 per mile for 14 miles. I started off a little bit slow. I think I was averaging 10 minutes per mile for the first 4 or 5 miles, but then I got into a groove and I sped up because my knees felt better because I iced my knees yesterday. Second run of the day, 4-mile run. And that 4-mile run felt really long for some reason. It might be because it's 90 degrees outside and I'm running midday, but that was not fun. It feels like the room is getting dimmer and dimmer. With each progressive step, with each progressive mile, it feels like the room is getting darker and darker. And I am really getting into that dark place. And this feeling right now, this is what I've been chasing. I want this because with each step, with each mile that I run, it literally feels like I'm leveling up, that my mind is expanding slowly and surely. And this is what I've been chasing this whole time because it sucks. It's painful. I don't want to run, but I have to. I'm just going back and forth in my head of yes, come on, let's go, versus this is stupid. Why am I running, walking, whatever you want to call it? Why am I doing this 500 miles in a month Calendar Club Challenge for a stupid number on a stupid watch? Calendar Club Challenge, day number 29, run number 1, 9.5 miles, proof right here. And not much to say, just gotta keep doing what I'm doing, put my head down, put my shoes on, and keep pounding that pavement. I can't believe it. I can't believe I am done with this challenge. 500 miles. Done. All in all, I thought this calendar club slash 500 miles in a month challenge was an amazing challenge. I can honestly say that I had a lot of fun. There were a lot of ups, downs, lefts, and rights, and I got exactly what I wanted to get out of it. I wanted to expand my mind. I wanted to get to that dark place, get out of that dark place, and come out the other side stronger, and that's exactly what happened. In terms of difficulty, I would likely rank this a little lower than my first 100 miler that I ever did. My 100 miler that I did last December was one of the, if not the hardest physical challenge that I had ever done. It took me 30 hours. I basically couldn't even bend my knees the last 20 miles. I had to waddle and the acute pain was real. Each step was agonizing. This was a different type of hard. It wasn't acute pain, but the sheer amount of days in a row at the number of miles that I had to run each and every day, that was hard. It wasn't the slice in the knees, knife in the knees and joints type of pain, because that's what it feels like when I ran that 100 miler, but it was the sheer consistency, the tiredness, the feeling hit by a truck every single day, that type of hard. But all in all, I'd probably rate this an 8.5 out of 9 on the difficulty scale. Also, I lost my second toenail on my left foot. A few pieces of advice if you decide to pursue this challenge. For me personally, given my current level of fitness, and I gave you my current level of fitness at the beginning of the video, this challenge really felt like it was on the edge or even maybe a little outside of what my body could handle or should handle. And I really think that a person should have at least bare minimum 6 to 9 months of putting in 50 to 70 miles per week before even attempting this challenge. And by no means am I saying that if you're not putting in that type of mileage per week that you cannot do this challenge. Just know what you're getting yourself into. And that gets into my second piece of advice. Make sure that you take your recovery very, very seriously. Have something in place to make sure that you're getting in enough calories in per day so that you can rest, recover, and perform optimally the next day. Ice is your best friend. At least it was mine. I was icing 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 times a day, and that definitely saved my knees. Make sure you're foam rolling, make sure you're stretching, and do anything that you need to do to recover optimally. Third piece of advice, make sure that you have proper footwear. Make sure that before you start this challenge that you have a fairly brand new pair of shoes. You do not want to run 500 miles on shoes that already have 1,000, 1,500 miles on them. I personally use my new Nike React Milers. Before I started this challenge, these had about 100 miles in them. But now they have 100 plus the 500, so 600 miles in these shoes already. And there is already a lot of wear and tear, as you can see by the bottom. You can see the grip already chafing off. And I am a notorious heel striker, and you can even see it all coming off here. So make sure that you have proper footwear to get you through the whole 500 miles in a month. Fourth piece of advice, don't worry about time, just worry about completing the miles and completing the distance. You might be a little worried about time at the beginning half of the month, but the more miles that you put in, the more tired that you are, the more that your knees are aching, you are not going to want to worry about time. The most important thing, at least for me, when I took on this challenge, was to complete the overall mileage. So that gets into my fifth piece of advice. Make sure that you have a little bit of strategy. For me, I wish I would have implemented the strategy a lot earlier on as far as the run walk, the 7-3 or the 6-4. I really didn't start to implement the run walk method until day 21, and at that point my knees already felt swollen. Though icing, recovery, stretching, foam rolling, that all helped. Though if I would have incorporated better strategy earlier on, day 13, day 14, run, walk a little bit earlier, it definitely would have saved my bodies and my knees. Fifth piece of advice, have a mantra. For me, it was, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it, Vince? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. How bad do you want it? Repeating this over and over in my head, especially when things got dark in the latter half of the month, really helped me get through the mileage for the day. And my last piece of advice, if you're taking on this challenge, just focus on that next step. Don't think about how many more miles that you have to run for the day. Don't think about how many more miles that you have to run for the month. Just focus on that next step. Because how do you run 500 miles in a month? One step at a time. Last couple tips, actually, because I don't want to forget to put these into the video. Tip number 1, naps are going to be your best friends, especially the last 7 to 10 days. 30 to 45 minutes each day will really help with your recovery. Tip number 2, get your runs in whenever you can. 2 runs, 3 runs, 4 runs, 5 runs, however many runs it takes, get that in. And last tip number 3, before you do the challenge, if you're worried about you not being able to complete the challenge, I think a good test would be first to do 5 miles a day for 30 days and then 10 miles a day for 30 days. If you can complete the 10 miles a day for 30 days without being absolutely crushed, then I think you could be ready for this Calendar Club / 500 miles in a month challenge. And this challenge for me is very personal. It's more than physical. There are way better and more enjoyable ways for me to get in shape or to even work my cardiovascular system. But for me, this challenge is an analogy for life. Because if I can run 500 miles in a month by the methods of the Calendar Club challenge, when it gets tough, and it will get tough, there will be dark places, there will be ups, downs, lefts, rights, it will suck, but all of this is an analogy for life. Because when things get hard, you don't quit. All I need to do is focus on that next step. I have to be relentless, and there is absolutely nothing that will stop me. Let's go.